Welcome to this second French lesson. In this lesson, we will cover all French pronouns: subject pronouns, disjunctive pronouns, direct object pronouns, indirect object pronouns, reflexive pronouns, and interrogative pronouns. We will start with the subject pronouns. What is a subject pronoun? Subject pronouns, or pronoms sujets in French, are a subcategory of the personal pronouns, pronoms personnels. The subject pronouns refer to who or what is performing the action. They vary in gender and in number. Let's see what they look like. The subject pronouns are divided into two main categories: the singulars and the plurals. Je is I, tu is you, il is he, elle is she, on is it or we, nous is we, vous is you, and il is they masculine, elle is they feminine. On is a special type of subject pronoun as its function changes depending on the context. On can mean oui in the informal speech, for instance, on a faim, we're hungry, or one, someone, people, they. For instance, on peut penser qu'elle a raison. One can think that she is right. You should also note that French distinguishes the formal speech and the informal speech. The equivalent of vous is usually you, in the plural form of English. However, vous can also be the equivalent of you in the singular form in English when using the formal speech, i.e. when addressing someone we don't know, in a professional setting, or as a mark of respect. For instance, we would say vous avez raison instead of tu as raison to say you are right. Let's now examine how subject pronouns work with a verb in more details. We will use the verb manger, to eat. Je mange, I eat. Tu manges, you eat. Il mange, he eats. Elle mange, she eats. On mange, it eats or we eat. Nous mangeons, we eat. Vous mangez, you eat. Il mange, they in its masculine form. Elle mange, they in its feminine form. They eat. Notice that the stem of the verb M-A-N-G remains the same, but the ending of the verb varies. In French, the structure of a verb varies according to the subject pronoun used to conjugate it. Verbs are categorized into three main groups. The first group verbs, les verbes du premier groupe, the second group verbs, les verbes du deuxième groupe, and the third group verbs, les verbes du troisième groupe. Each group of verbs is associated with a different method to conjugate them, with specific endings assigned to each subject pronoun. For instance, all first group verbs, which are the verbs that end in ER in their infinitive form, will be conjugated in the same way. Manger ends in ER. It's a first group verb, and the endings of manger, when conjugated, will follow the structure of the first group verb's endings. For now, just remember this rule. We will see in more details in another lesson how to conjugate each type of group verbs properly. Let's now see some examples on how to use the subject pronouns in sentences. Je suis marié. I am married. Je is your subject pronoun. J'ai une voiture. I have a car. J apostrophe is in this case your subject pronoun. Je is contracted into J apostrophe because the word following begins with a vowel. Tu as une maison. You have a house. Tu is your subject pronoun. Nous sommes prêts. We are ready. Nous is your subject pronoun. J'ai une voiture and tu as une maison. The verb used is avoir, to have. However, the structure of the verb changes according to the subject used. Let's now move on to the disjunctive pronouns. Disjunctive pronouns are stressed pronouns, used to create an emphasis on a subject pronoun that has already been mentioned, or on a subject pronoun which is implicitly part of the situation. Because there are also pronouns, they will be divided into the two main categories of singular and plural. Let's pronounce them together. Moi is me. Toi is you. Il is him. Elle is her. There is no disjunctive pronoun for on. Nous is us. Vous is you. Eux is them for the masculine form of them. Elle is them for the feminine form of them. Let's put this into context with some examples. Qui va à l'école? Moi. Who goes to school? Me. Marie, elle, ne vient pas. When it comes to Mary, she is not coming. C'est lui qui a raison. It's him who is right. You can clearly see that here we've been able to create an emphasis thanks to the disjunctive pronouns. Let's now examine the direct object pronouns. Direct object pronouns are nouns, a person or an object, that are acted upon by the subject. They answer the questions who and what. Let's read them. Me or M apostrophe before a vowel is me. Te or T apostrophe is you. Le or L apostrophe is him. La or L apostrophe is her. Le, la or L apostrophe is it. Nous is us. Vous is you. Les is them. Let's look at some examples. Il m'aime. He loves me. This answers the question, who does he love? Elle le mange. She eats it. This answers the question, what does she eat? Now let's look at the indirect object pronouns. Indirect object pronouns are nouns, only a person or an animate entity, that are acted upon by the subject. They answer the questions to whom or for whom, and to what and for what. Let's read them together. Me, M apostrophe, to me. Te, T apostrophe, to you. Lui, to him. Lui, to her. Nous, to us. Vous, to you. And leur, to them. Let's put this into context with some examples. Je lui donne des fleurs. I give him flowers. Answers the question, to whom do I give flowers? Elle leur fait un cadeau. She gives them a gift. Answers the question, to whom does she give a gift? Let's now look at the reflexive pronouns. Reflexive pronouns are pronouns which are used with reflexive verbs to express the idea of self, myself, yourself, and so on. They always agree with their related reflexive verb. Me, M apostrophe, myself. Te, T apostrophe, yourself. Se, S apostrophe, himself. Se, S apostrophe, herself. And se, S apostrophe, itself. Nous, ourselves. Vous, yourselves. Se, S apostrophe, themselves. Let's look at some examples. Nous nous réveillons. We wake ourselves up. Elle s'habille pour aller au travail. She dresses herself to go to work. Finally, to end this lesson, we will look into the interrogative pronouns. Who is qui? Whose is à qui? To whom is à qui? What can be quoi, que, or q apostrophe before a vowel, which is either quel for a masculine object or quel, double L-E for a feminine object, which one is lequel for a masculine object, or laquelle for a feminine object, which ones is lesquels for any gendered object, when is quand, why is pourquoi, how is comment, how much is combien, how often, à quelle fréquence, what time, à quelle heure. And finally, we have where, which is où with an accent. Let's now see how to use these interrogative pronouns with some examples. Où vas-tu? Where are you going? Je vais où je veux. I go where I want. Lequel de ces joueurs est le meilleur? Which one of these players is the best? Je sais lequel prendre. I know which one to take. This is the end of the lesson where we went over all French pronouns. Thanks to these pronouns, we will be able to form sentences and ask specific questions. Make sure to subscribe and to hit the bell to be notified of all new lessons. Au revoir!